So let's press T to bring up our tool shelf and properties shelf here. And I'm going to go ahead and press X to delete the cube we had selected and press Shift A and add a simple plane. And so this video is all about extruding things. So extruding is the act of pulling something out or pushing it out. If we press Tab to go into edit mode, let's go ahead and switch this tool set from extended to basic since we're trying to get through these basic tools. We can extrude one of two ways. We can either click this button here, which if we click, of course, we immediately become engaged in extruding it. So I could press Ctrl Z to undo that, or we can just, as in parentheses suggest, just press E on the keyboard to use the hotkey. All of the hotkeys are listed next to these basic tools because really you should get used to using the hotkey for these. But of course we have the buttons available too for new users, as well as our show helpful tips, which I suggest taking a look over if you're new to Blender. So what we just extruded was a single face, and when we did that, the mesh was generated between the area where we started and the area where we extruded to. So we could keep doing this. We could press E to extrude again and continue extruding out like this. Or we could select multiple faces, such as I could click this face here, hold Shift, and continue selecting a few other faces. And then when we hit E to extrude that, that all gets extruded out as one lump mass. So I could then add to that selection. I could hold Shift and click some more of these faces and hit E to extrude again, and we get even a more complex extrusion, and we could just tap E again and do like that. So I'm going to press Tab to go back into object mode, tap X to delete that big monstrosity there, and then press Shift A and under Mesh add another plane again so we can discuss another way of extruding. So I'm going to press Tab to go into edit mode here. Before we were extruding faces, but based on the type of mesh selection you're using, such as edges or vertices, your extrusions will do different things which are helpful for accomplishing different goals. So if I press Shift scroll up, this changes my mesh selection to edges, and I could just click on one or multiple of these edges and then hit E to extrude. And you'll see when I do that, the place where the selection started and the new edge there, the mesh is generated in the same way that it is done when we extrude a face, but this time for edges. So we can really quickly create some really interesting geometry just by this. Never underestimate how sometimes the simplest tools, such as extruding, will allow you to create really incredible things. So we can also restrain these extrusions. So if I tap E, I can immediately click and hold on my middle mouse button to gesture towards the direction I want this to constrain to when we're extruding. Of course, I could go down this direction, or I could change my mind and hold middle mouse button down again and go down this direction. And then we could just click when we're ready to confirm that. I could hit E to extrude, middle mouse to constrain, and make it go up this way. E to extrude, middle mouse to constrain. And you see very quickly I can do something, really cool like this, generate some kind of weird maze thing. So occasionally when you are using the middle mouse button to constrain, sometimes when you try to gesture your mouse towards the direction you want it to go, it doesn't always work. Say I pressed E to extrude here and I'm holding my middle mouse and I'm trying to get it to go down a specific direction. I'm not having any trouble right now, but if I was, what you can do is cancel that or confirm it and then rotate around a little bit. Sometimes the perspective of your view will help Blender's ability to use the gesturing a little better. Or if it's just giving you too much trouble, you can always specifically enter in an axis you want it to go, whether it's X, Y, or Z. So if I were to press E to extrude, then held my middle mouse button down and gesture my mouse towards the direction I want this thing to go, but it wasn't working, I could just tap X, Y, or Z and manually force it to do that. So we made all of this by doing multiple extrusions of this single edge on the side of this face here. But we can, in the same way that we extruded multiple faces, we can extrude multiple edges at a time. So I could click this edge here and then Shift, select multiple edges here like this and hit E to extrude. And I can extrude that out like that. And once again, I can click down on my middle mouse to constrain that extrusion, hit E to extrude, bring that out. I could press 3 to go into right view here, and I could hit E to extrude that again and bring that up like this. E to extrude, hold middle mouse to constrain, E to extrude, press R to rotate that, and so the next time we extrude, it will aim down, E to extrude again, R to rotate, E to extrude, R to rotate, and so on. Really quickly, we've got some really interesting shapes here just with extruding edges. So I really want to encourage you to experiment with just extruding with these different mesh types. Let's go ahead and press Tab to go back into object mode, and I'm going to press X to delete that again, and press Shift A and add yet another plane, and press Tab to go back into edit mode so we can discuss extruding vertices. So we've got this plane here, but what I really like to do is start out with this object being just a single vertex point. So I'm going to press M, which brings up our merge menu if we are in edit mode, because as I'm sure you figured out by now, the different type of modes you're in, different hotkeys will do different things. So if we're in edit mode as we are and we press M, this brings up merge. And if we press collapse, this will merge all vertex points in our object into one single vertex point. So we could have actually done that with that big crazy shape we were working with a second ago, but I wanted to show you how that works from something simpler like a plane. Okay, so we've got this single vertex point. So if we press Shift, scroll down to change to vertex selection. Now, if we hit E to extrude, we are now extruding a single vertex point from another, and the edge is being generated from the initial place where we extruded to the new vertex point. So I could hold middle mouse to constrain this and just bring this up as high as I wanted. I could hit E to extrude again, hold middle mouse to constrain it towards the direction I wanted to go, such as along here. And I could press E to extrude, middle mouse to constrain, and just, repeat that and create, I don't know, some kind of city skyline or something. Anything you wanted to would be cool. We can come over here and we can actually extrude multiple vertex points in the same way we can extrude multiple faces or multiple edges. And we could extrude them like that. And if we extrude multiple of them, then the necessary mesh will be generated to fill in the gaps. But if I were to press Ctrl Z and say just extrude one of these vertex points, then we will continue just to create edges there. So you can see sort of how from vertex points we can create edges, and from edges being extruded we can create faces, and then we could press space to go to face selection and then shift select on these faces, hit E to extrude them, and from there we've got really complex cool stuff going on really quickly. So once again, let's press Tab to go into object mode, press X to delete that object, and then let's press Shift A and add a cube. And let's press Tab to go back into edit mode. The individual extrude, which you may have noticed under extrude, works very similar to the extrude button, but it will send out each item, whether it's a vertex point or a selection of edges or faces, into its own direction. So for instance, if I were to click one of these faces and shift select these three faces here, and so these other three aren't selected, and then we just do a regular extrude by pressing E, you'll see this gets all extruded out as one big lump sum. But if I press Ctrl Z to undo all that, and instead of pressing E this time, we either click this button here or just press Ctrl E, you'll see that each of these faces are extruded out into their own individual directions. So I could press Ctrl E again and extrude those out again, Ctrl E again, tap A to select all of these faces, and then if we press Ctrl E, we'll see that these all get extruded out into their own individual direction. So this works as well with edges and vertices in the same way that Extrude does. So just, making you aware of that. It's a really useful tool. So, experiment with that a lot as well. I've probably now spent more time on the simple extrude tools than probably any other tutorial video that exists, but there's a reason for that. You need to understand how powerful that this simple extrude tool is and really what it can make available to you. To go ahead and bring this full circle, we're gonna press Tab to go back into object mode, tap X to delete that. And then let's press 1 to go into front view, and then I'm just gonna press Shift and hold my middle mouse button to pan my screen to where the center of the grid is more in the center of the screen. I'm going to, under Utilities and Reference Pictures, just drag and drop this picture of a hammer. Then under Background Images, I'm going to increase the size of it where this little S is down here to make it a bit bigger. Then I'm going to close that up. So I actually got this image just off of Google image search. It really doesn't matter what image you're using. You can do this with a picture of a hammer or something else. So the basic idea is I just want to show you how quickly we can use the extrude tool to do a very crude model of something like this. Let's press Shift A and we could add a plane or a cube. It doesn't really matter what type of mesh object we add because we're just going to collapse it into a single point. So let's just do a cube. Then I'll press Tab to go into edit mode, tap M, and then under this merge menu, select collapse. And so now I've got a single point. So I need to shift scroll down so that we're in vertex selection so I can actually grab that point, hit G to grab, and just bring it towards the end of this little hammer here. I'm also going to press my full screen button so we have a little more real estate to work with. And I'm just going to grab this point, put it at the beginning of here, press E to extrude this out, and then shift scroll up so that we are in edge selection. Select this edge here, hit E to extrude it, and then S to scale that edge, E to extrude this. And what I'm going to do is actually layer this background image over what I'm working on so it's a bit easier to see. So under background images, I'm going to change back to front, which allows us to kind of see through this. I can close that up. And so I can press S to scale this edge, hit E to extrude, S to scale, E to extrude, S to scale here. And maybe I'll shift scroll down, select this point, and just get it a little tighter over this image. Shift scroll up for edge selection, E to extrude, S to scale, E to extrude. I'm going to press R to rotate it to get it to align a little better. E to extrude, R to rotate, S to scale. And so if I were making a proper model, I would probably actually want to make this handle separate from this hammerhead, but this is just a kind of a quick modeling exercise with extrude. So we'll go ahead and finish this whole thing up here. I'll press E to extrude this, S to scale. I want to press E to extrude this out all the way to the end, R to rotate this. And then I'm going to shift scroll down to go into vertex selection and grab this point here at the end and press G to grab and move it up here. Then shift scroll up to do edge selection again, E to extrude, R to rotate, S to scale, and E to extrude that again. And then we'll grab this face, hit E to extrude, R to rotate, S to scale, rotate that a bit more, E to extrude, S to scale, E to extrude, S to scale, E to extrude, S to scale again. And maybe just grab this last little edge, hit E to extrude, S to scale, like that. Okay, so I'm going to click my middle mouse to rotate. And when I do that, we're popped out of orthographic view, which we can only see the background images in orthographic view. And so quickly we have modeled a somewhat likeness of this image doing very simple extruding from a single point. Then I could tap space to be in face selection, tap A to select all, hit E to extrude that. And notice that when I extrude this out, there's these really dark looking faces. And we're not going to get into too much what that means just yet, but basically when it looks dark like that, it means the mesh has become inverted, and you don't want it to look like that. So if you're extruding in a direction or moving and it looks that way, what you want to do is hit G to grab and move it in the opposite way so that it's light colored, and this means that it will display properly. Now there's ways to fix it if the faces look that way, which we'll discuss later, but just wanted to make you a little aware of that. So I'll press Tab to go back into object mode, and we could have actually taken that, a lot farther than what we did. I just wanted to show you the power that can reside in one tool. Always try to be as pragmatic about this kind of thing as you can.